Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. And on today's episode, the GOAT of MMA retired last week. But is it possible he's already been replaced? I don't know, guys. Too soon? I don't know. Alexandre Pantoja defeated Kai Kara-France to notch his fourth title defense. Very impressive for the Brazilian. And Jake Paul, just kidding. Nah, he fought a bum. How about that Van Roybal fight? We're going to cover that and the rest of the card. We're going to unpack UFC 317. That was a Fight of the Year candidate. Hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con, and look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes is in Las Vegas, my MMA Junkie radio co-host. He says he's ready to bring it. Danny Segura down in the 305. He's ready to rock and roll, one of the top reporters in the game. And that MMA Media Titan's back. He's up in Toronto. That's Mike Bond checking in. Cold coffee's on the ones and twos. But before we get started, look, we're going to cover this Ilia Topuria thing, I mean, from start to finish. And MMA Junkie's got a page printing commemorating Ilia Topuria's 317 title win. So you're going to see a little QR code there on the bottom left, right? It's my left, probably your right. Check that out. Now you can commemorate Topuria's achievement with this MMA Junkie commemorative page print from USA Today Sports. Don't miss your chance to own UFC history. And we'll worry about likes and subscribes later. Let's get to it, guys. Another successful international fight week ended with a historic KO via Ilia Topuria's right hand. What was it? A jab, a cross, and then a left hook elbow that slipped in there. As the former lightweight champion, Chucky Olives, he was on the receiving end of said KO. Topuria joins other legends like Randy Couture, BJ Penn, and Conor McGregor in the exclusive champ fraternity. I think there's a ton of them all together. If I'm not mistaken, Mike Bond, you can blink twice if I'm right. Guys, I was speechless that night at the result. It all happened so quick. Topuria made it look easy, and his power is lethal. Let's hear it from the panel. Mike Bond, kick things off, man. Put that beautiful KO finish into perspective.
It was beautiful. What more could you ask if you're an Ilia Topuria supporter? He said he was going to do, once again, exactly what he did. So extremely impressive, man. Like, what can you really say? This has been a remarkable and unprecedented run to the top for him. You named those fighters that have won titles in 2 weight classes. You are correct. There's 10 of them, but there's only one who's done it well undefeated the whole way. Yes, you can say John Jones, but he does, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's a real loss or not, have that one on his record. Ilia Topuria does not. So it's great, man. Like, this is, I thought, a huge night for the sport. It's felt pretty dry throughout the year. This whole card, top to bottom, was pretty awesome, and it capped off in a legendary and extremely memorable moment. So we should all kind of be pleased with where the sport is at coming off of UFC 317, and Ilia Topuria is definitely a unique entity for us right now. I mean, I tweeted out after the fight, this was the first knockout we've had in a UFC title fight after 13 consecutive fights with either a submission or a decision. Last finish by strikes in a title fight was John Jones versus Stipe in November. The last fight by strikes with the hands, a knockout, was Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway. So this guy is doing stuff that no one else quite literally in the sport is doing right now. We all watch this, yes, for entertainment, great fights, competitive fights, but really people want to see the knockouts. People want to see the knockouts at the highest level, and Ilia Topuria is knocking out guys at the highest level, legends of the sport. What more could you ask for?
Mike, and it was so clean, and he was setting it up throughout round one. It just looked like a matter of time. Look, I'll come clean, all right? I took Oliveira there at the end. I thought the size would matter. And, man, just a few seconds in, a couple exchanges in, I knew I was toast. If I would have been at a casino, I would have been ripping up my tickets already. What do you think of just the beauty of everything he can do? Remember when him and Oliveira locked up, Mike, and you thought, uh-oh, Oliveira, top game, watch out. And then all of a sudden, the power, it must be in his chest. It must be those extra 10 pounds that he carried. Boom, he landed on the top position. He started threatening. He started pinning his arm. I was like, is that Matt Hughes?
Yeah, he's everything he says he is. He's extremely well-rounded. He's dangerous in a lot of different areas, and just the confidence really comes through when he's in there in the cage. I mean, Charles Oliveira, like you said, there was reasons to maybe think he's, of course, well-rounded, one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen in the sport, dangerous, but he needed to fight the perfect fight on Saturday. He could not slip up. He could not make any mistakes, and he made plenty of them, and it led to this result. Ilia Topuria had much more leeway to do things that he wanted, to take risks, all that stuff. Charles Oliveira couldn't afford a single one of those. We see it right here, like way too far inside the boxing range pocket. Kind of Dustin Poirier told me about this in our preview of this fight. He said you need to be all the way in or all the way out. You can't hang out at that range. He did for too long, and boom, got iced.
Danny Segura, the guy's not even breathing hard at this point. Look how relaxed he was. And how about during the intros? He's making facial gestures at the camera. This guy's a killer.
Yeah, he is a special talent, and I was one of the guys that had him winning this fight. Not only that, but my prediction was knockout. I did think that he was going to get it done between rounds 1 and 2, and even then, even though I had a favorable outcome predicted for Ilia Topuria, an early finish, even then he surpassed my expectations. Yeah, man, the guy is something special. There's still a lot of career left, but so far from what we've seen and sort of the platform that he's laid out for the years to come, we're looking at a historic figure. We're looking at somebody that's going to go on and do something very special and end up being a staple in the sport when we look back at it.
Goes everyone in Peru in our family loves Ilia Topuria. I mean, he's a Latin American guy. Like, everyone's pushing him. I was telling him, take it easy, Charles Oliveira, man. They should be questioning my credentials right now. Why is Ilia Topuria so good? Does he just see the game in slow motion or what?
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of them. I mean, I think what we witnessed was something magical, right? Like, a lot of us did pick Topuria, but I think deep down inside at some point, we kind of questioned ourselves a little bit, right? Are we drinking the Kool-Aid? I know at the UFC Fan Expo, we were hearing a lot of breakdowns from fighters, from other media saying Charles Oliveira is a lot more of a live dog here in this fight. And maybe we drank that a little bit because I was starting to lean towards Oliveira at the start. Was this too big of a mountain to climb? I was thinking, but man, this guy shut us up. And I can't remember if it was you or Mike that said it, George, but right away, right off the bat, when he closed the distance the way he did, you just kind of knew this is going to be a bad night for Charles Oliveira. The way he was getting in there, the timing of all of his shots, he was a surgeon with his technique. And, you know, kind of, he embodies so many of these qualities that some of the greats have, right? Like GSP's discipline and Demetrius Johnson's speed, Anderson Silva's swag, and then the power just seems like it's his own. The way he blends it all together, that's his little signature touch at the end. This is something incredible. Anytime this guy fights, sign me up. I'm down.
Dude, he's walking out there like he already knows the result. And that's kind of what he was saying. Although as an older guy, I just find it kind of corny, you know, when they say, oh, I put in the hard work, so I knew I was going to win. Now I'm starting to become a believer. This guy's incredible. If you have a comment or a question in the chat, I will get to him. We're unpacking UFC 317 here, an incredible card. I know the UFC took some slack over this because, you know, on paper wasn't the greatest, but man, it turned out to be an awesome night of fights. Back to Topuria. Mike Bond, is he the best fighter on the planet today? Careful now. You just talked to Islam Makhachev.
Today, on this Monday, June 30th, 2025, I'll say sure. Yeah, I mean, Islam Makhachev has the chance to take that back, in my opinion, if he beats Jack Della Maddalena, because I think that is a more difficult move-up feat. I mean, I just see people in the comment section here already trying to drag Ilia's resume. I'm not going to play that game. I think these are 3 very legitimate wins he's had. But sure, Charles Oliveira is on the back end of his career. Jack Della Maddalena is just starting his championship form. So, like, it is a difference there. I think that would be a better win. But yeah, right here today, Ilia's resume, this 3-fight streak, absolutely incredible stuff. He right now, yeah, I think that's a totally fine statement to make.
Man, poor Topuria is getting clowned, huh? All right.
Danny? You know how it goes. Everyone wants to pick apart the resumes. You know, when Islam's #1, it's he's fighting featherweights. He's fighting guys on short notice who weren't preparing for him. See people here with John Jones. You know, he beat a bunch of old guys that should have been middleweights when he was coming up. Like, we do this every single time. Everyone wants to play this game. I mean, so be it. We can pick apart any single person's resume if we want to sit here long enough and do it. But Ilia, we're here. We're experiencing this moment. It's been special.
Do you agree with Mike, Danny? Ilia's got it today. Makhachev can obviously make up ground when he fights Della Maddalena.
This was a tough one. I've thought about it, and I've seen some people, like Mike, give Ilia the number one spot. But I just think at this point, yes, even though he won a second title in a different weight class, I just think at this point, Islam Makhachev has done more, has had a more high level fights. Obviously, this 3-fight run is historic, is super impressive. But prior to that, he was fighting, Josh Emmett, Bryce Mitchell, which are good names. But Islam just has been at the top for a little longer. So I think it's very close. I think if you want to give it to Ilia Topuria, that's completely fine. But I just think that if we're talking about the best pound for pound, like there's also got to be a little bit of proof to that in achievement. And obviously, like what Ilia Topuria is doing is great, but there's just more to base to base this sort of question on when you think about Islam Makhachev. So I'm going to give it to Makhachev. And I think if he wins the title at 170, he kind of seals that. But man, Ilia Topuria is stepping right on his heels. He's right behind him. And I mean, I really want to see that fight. Maybe we see that fight and we get a clear answer in the future.
Danny, we're in 10 minutes into the show. You're already tripping. This guy just won 2 titles. All right. He's undefeated and he's waxing people. Not that Makhachev isn't, but there was that Poirier fight, man. He went into deep waters before he registered the win, too. Are you sure you don't want to think about it again?
Again, I don't have a problem with putting Ilia Topuria in that spot. I do think it's very, very close. And look, I have no problem with you guys trying to convince me to put Ilia Topuria in that spot. Like, sure, yeah, like I definitely see it. And actually, if those two were to fight, I'd pick Ilia Topuria. But
what are you waiting for?
But just Makhachev has just done more at this point. Like if we're talking about like who's been around the elite for longer, I don't know. I think you still have to reserve that spot for Makhachev. But look, it's a very compelling conversation, and I think it's a coin flip at this point. I think both guys are right there.
I think it's a tough one. I mean, you look at the top 3 wins. I mean, Volkanovski, Holloway, and Oliveira for Ilia. And then what would you say are Islam's? Volkanovski won, probably the short notice second one. Maybe you take that off a little bit. Poirier and Oliveira. Like I don't think
comparable.
It's not just competitive. And I mean, look at what Ilya's doing. He's flatlining these guys. Islam is, winning, entertaining, submissions and stuff like that. But
Islam's lost once and has one less title in a different weight class.
Sure. But he also has, 17 UFC fights compared to Ilya's 9. So that's more fights to open up the possibility of a loss. So I won't, rag on him too much for that one. But for me, just the difference maker right now today is Ilya's done it in 2 weight classes. What is the definition of pound for pound? How does your skill set translate across multiple divisions against different styles and heights and sizes of opponents? Ilia, as of now, has proved that, and Islam has not, but he will get his chance in a few short months here.
I would also like to argue and say that Islam fought both Volkanovski and Charles Oliveira at better moments in their careers.
I would agree with that. Definitely. Yeah. I think that's totally fair. The second one, maybe not so much for Volk, but yeah, that'll forever be a question. Did Volk or did Islam punch that ticket for, Ilia to capitalize on against Volk? And we'll never know that. The evidence is mounting that maybe he beats prime full camp Volk by knockout anyways. Look how good this guy is, but we will never know for sure.
Goes be the tiebreaker here, man. What do you think? Mike leans towards Topuria. Danny, who's an Atletico Madrid fan, is going against Ilia Topuria.
You're putting that against me, huh?
I'm suspecting there might be something there. Maybe he got a call from the Metropolitano Stadium.
When you put it that way, look, I'm one of those guys that really, I think it's razor thin. But when it is pound for pound, you do have to kind of nitpick a little bit. I'm with Mike. I think Topuria. It's really hard for me to even say that because I agree with a lot of what Danny's saying. But going into that fight, I just didn't think Topuria could do things in that manner. He's gone through Murderer's Row and he's blowing through them. Like he's not even leaving any question marks. Like whenever he fights, what do we really point at and go, well, he needs to improve. Like there's just not much there really on either guy. But this dude is so confident in the way he's been doing it. I just can't, man. And that's, like they said, next fight, Islam. I don't even think he really needs to get a finish or anything like that. Like just get the win and probably flip it right back to him. That's kind of how pound for pound works. And I think they're going to be in this duel for a long time until they go head to head.
Well,
Fresh melon
you
juice
guys
in the
converted me. I'm
chat.
going Ilia Topuria, all right? So it's unanimous. You guys converted me just so I don't get shit on
Hey, it takes a big man to do that.
GG.
All right. We did it. We did it, guys. Fresh melon juice in the chat. I thought he might have the cherry on the Sunday. He says Islam doesn't have a 0. So, like, again, we're nitpicking. Of course, we think they're both great, folks. We're not slamming one over the other or nothing like that. It's just that when you're nitpicking, we got to point that out. Fresh melon juice did that for us in the chat. Islam does not have that 0. Star Power is coming a little strong. Star Power MMA says, who's on Islam's resume? Take it easy. I mean, he's a champion with 4 title defenses. It doesn't matter. All right. He's pretty damn great. But anyway, let's continue here, man. There's a lot to unpack here. What's his star potential, guys? And what's his sporting potential, Danny Segura? Since we'll lean on some of your soccer background, I know he's done the walkout at the Bernabeu, and everyone loves him. He's taking over a country, possibly a continent, maybe even a planet.
Yeah. Man, I do think he can be the face of the UFC. I think he's obviously a big player right now, but I think over the next year and a half, we're talking about 1 or 2 more fights, and he really becomes the main face of the UFC. I think this guy's just absolutely massive. I mean, in Spain, he's already been huge, and I think with this win, his stardom just got even bigger. And then in Europe, just he's a giant figure. And just to show you some anecdotal evidence, my dad hit me up and he's like, "Oh, Ilia Topuria," and he barely watches MMA, but somehow in, I guess, Instagram or social media algorithm got to him, and now he's sort of paying attention. And I think in the States has always lagged behind, and I've noticed that through my bilingual coverage, has always lagged behind in sort of getting trusting Ilia Topuria and his skill set, and as well as his stardom. I feel like that's starting to catch up, and I really did see it after this fight. I feel like after this fight, it's kind of getting where Latin America and Spain and parts of Europe have been already with Ilia Topuria. So, dude, I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I think he's a star in the making, and it's hard to top McGregor. Obviously, I think he's always going to be numero uno for a while, but man, if somebody can get close to that, I think it's him. I think he's got a lot of potential, and he's just 28, man.
But goes at one point, remember McGregor was creeping on Rousey, and we thought, can he really reach Rousey? And then, of course, he surpassed her by a lot. So maybe this is just the beginning. Maybe this is the tidal wave that's coming. This guy's he's ticking boxes. Did you see when Oliveira was being announced, he's clapping for him? He was respectful afterwards. I mean, this guy's, like I say, he's just a prime guy in our sport, and a good example of what a prize fighter should be.
I agree with everything Danny said. I think this is the fight that really, really brought him into the American market. I think people are starting to get behind him. And it's when you watch him, you feel like you're watching a movie. He almost seems like James Bond, right? He's coming out in the suit. He says all the right things. He goes out, he performs. And what I really think is helping him now is every James Bond needs a villain. And they introduced that villain this weekend, right? I think that's the next step that made him even blow up even more. It was just a 10 performance all the way around.
All right, Mike, reel us in. Are we getting out of hand here, or do you see star potential in this guy? The GSPs, the McGregors, the Joneses of the world.
Yeah, I see star potential for sure. He's, I think, just scratching the surface of it. This feels like, I don't know if we're comparing it to the McGregor come up, maybe like the Chad Mendes moment, right? Like if he can go on to have his Jose Aldo moment next, like, the top comes off, anything is possible. I don't know if that's against Patty or if that needs to come against Islam or someone like that, but he's right there. The numbers show it. I know people in the comments like saying he's buying followers and stuff like that. Let me just give you a hint. Audit anyone's account with 10 million followers. A good chunk of them are probably going to be bots or probably going to be fake. So I'm not going to sit here accusing the guy of just buying a few 100,000 followers every few weeks, but he is legitimate, man. Go look at the stuff we see behind the scenes, the numbers on just other things he does. He's right there. All the interest is there. How can it not be? Like I said off the top, he's going out there and doing what every fan wants to see in this sport: score vicious, highlight reel knockouts in UFC title fights. He's the only one doing it right now, dating back almost a year at this point. So he's put himself in kind of a different tier as far as what he's able to execute from beginning to end, from promoting the fight to winning the fight to the aftermath. So if he can keep on doing it, man, like it's all there. Like people can not like him or not like some of the things that he says, but he's getting to the point now where as a fan, no matter what type of fan you are, you have to at least respect him as a fighter and what he's doing and what he's capable of out there. And if you can get that and lay that baseline foundation for every fan, it's a great starting point, and then you just build everything off there. So he's in a great spot. I would not sit here and say he is 100% the face of the UFC, the biggest star, stuff like that. I think there's still some competition. Alex Pereira, if he can win a title back, is still a big deal. Islam is a big deal, but he is top 3 at absolute worst top 5 in the UFC right now in terms of star power, value, all that stuff.
I even saw McGregor giving him some love on social media.
Yeah.
Usually he's not doing. Usually he's
can we address that one comment in there about McGregor and Ilia and McGregor in the testing pool? I can take it if you so please.
Yeah. I did see that. Do you know something about that?
4-6. I've heard that is seemingly true, that he is notified at least to be back in the drug testing pool. I will not believe it until I see the database updated with at least one test submitted from him, but that seems to be in the works. And what timing that would be? What is 6 months from now? That is the beginning of 2026. What did Michael Chandler call for? Yeah, like what was it, January 24th, 2026? Maybe a Netflix card, maybe a new deal. I don't know. It's a long way to go, a long way to go. But yes, to answer the question, those rumors seem to have some value behind them in truth.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I would agree. I heard it from a really, really good source that he does want to fight, but not till 2026. So all this is seemingly on the same wavelength. All right, now, but he's obviously got to make the comeback before we start taking him seriously again. Yeah. Let's deal with the hands, that we have in front of us, right? There's 3 hands that we're going to talk about, and you guys are each going to pretend you're managers, and you're going to make the case for your guy. Danny, Paddy Pimblett is yours. Goes, Justin Gaethje is yours, and Mike, Arman Tsarukyan is yours. You each get 1 minute to make the case. Let me see if I can find one of these little, corny clocks here, and we'll put it up. And last minute here. Danny, you go first, man. Make the case for Paddy Pimblett. Okay. 1 minute.
George White, do you want to make money? Unfortunately, you couldn't put together the Tom Aspinall versus John Jones fight. It was going to be big, but we can still kind of salvage this 2025 and have a blockbuster fight. And I think there's only one right answer for this, and that is Paddy Pimblett against Ilia Topuria. Paddy Pimblett's the guy. I mean, there's a reason why Joe Rogan called them into the octagon and why they faced off. There's a huge backstory there. We got tons of footage to promote it. We can put it in Europe, whether it's in Spain or the UK. Huge market. We can debut this in Spain and easily sell 80,000 tickets if we want to go to a stadium. But I know George White, sorry, you don't like events in stadiums, so we can just do 40,000. But look, the guy is coming off a win over Michael Chandler. Charles Oliveira got a title shot based off a win of Michael Chandler. So everything makes sense. You can back it up sporting-wise. The division won't be too pissed off. I know Justin Gaethje says he's going to retire, but trust me, he's not. It's time to make Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Topuria.
Dang. Okay, that's a good one. Goes, make the case. You got Justin Gaethje. You got 1 minute.
Well, for starters, George Brown, I don't like how things were handled on Saturday night. My client was clearly disrespected, and I demand an apology for that. But look, are you not entertained every time Justin Gaethje steps into the cage? I mean, he's had some of the greatest performances over the years, blood, sweat, and tears for your company. People buy tickets when they hear Justin Gaethje's name. They don't even need to know who the name is that's attached to him, right? Topuria has been the manager. I can't think of a bigger bull, a guy that just comes forward and doesn't stop. That is Justin Gaethje. Are we here to settle fabricated beefs? Is this fight going to take place in a doghouse? Because that's where Tsarukyan's in, right? No. Justin Gaethje's your man, George Brown. Please make it happen.
He doesn't even need the whole clock. He's already turning it over to Mike, and he's kind of throwing a little jab. Ooh, a jab at Mike here with the doghouse joke. All right, Mike, you're Arman Tsarukyan's manager.
Danny
Give me
Rubinstein.
1 minute. Why should he be next?
Well, it's pretty clear and simple why it should be number Next up, I'm #1 ranked in the lightweight division. I had the title shot earlier this year. I proved myself as the backup fighter for this card, making weight. If you still haven't seen enough, I've already volunteered to do it again in 3 weeks ahead of the Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway fight. I'm willing to do all the risks Tony Ferguson did by weighing in twice in 3 weeks, but I'm going to prove that I can get that belt after that, and that I can overcome all these concerns. I know you're telling the media now that it was my weight and not my back that led to the January pullout. Well, let's put that all behind us. This is the best fight that can be made. Everyone thinks Paddy Pimblett is going to get destroyed. Justin Gaethje is beyond his years. Yeah, maybe he'd be a nice name and a nice highlight. If you want a real fight, it is Arman Tsarukyan versus Ilia Topuria for the pride of Georgia. Let's make this happen. And this is the best fight and the most competitive fight. And if you want everyone to stop saying Ilia Topuria is just beating old guys, fight a guy his age, fight a guy who's #1, and there will be no questions about his greatness.
Shit. Those are some really, really compelling cases, man. Great job, guys. Did any of you get convinced by the other guy?
Wait, George, you got to pick a winner here.
Oh, I have to pick a winner?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Who are you giving the George Brown? Okay. Who are you giving
I won't ride the fence. I won't ride the fence. I'll tell you what. I thought Mike had his back to the wall, but he made a good case. And I think Pimblett versus, you're right, Danny. I want to see that in a stadium, whether it's at Anfield or at the Bernabeu, but it doesn't look like the UFC's there yet. They're not warm to stadiums, but I think they're going to have to be because these two guys are monsters. So I could see Pimblett benefiting from one more fight. But now usually when someone gets led into the octagon, it looks like, oh my God, it's curtains for the other guys. And I really thought it was on Saturday. And it could be, man. I don't know. But I'd love to just preserve that, let that marinate a little bit. Gaethje had more of a hand when Makhachev was the champ because Makhachev didn't want to do any rematches or anything like that. So he had the pole position. And he is interesting. Goes out of his own pocket, went to go watch Justin Gaethje fight when he was at WSOF. So he's been exciting for the longest time. I think 15 out of 15 or something like that of his wins have all been performance bonuses. And then, but we get back to Mike, and Mike presented an excellent case of how, you know, he can really, really match up against someone who's in their prime right now. That is proper. And I believe that Tsarukyan has gotten out of the doghouse by doing what he's done. Now, it would also be smart for Topuria to maybe catch that guy before he starts getting even better, or maybe catch him at a mentally low point in the first half of 2025. So I could see Topuria maybe benefiting from that as well. So that great stuff. I think I lean with Mike's though, because like I said, the age thing. But see, if I'm George Brown, see this green here? That's all I'm obsessed with too.
Exactly.
Man, that's the part that where Danny obviously comes out ahead because I think he wouldn't have allowed that to happen. He says he was in the back. What did he do? Dart back? Did he have to shit his pants or what? Like
he usually does bounce the cage once he wraps the belt around the winner. Like he doesn't really hang out for the post-fight interviews and stuff like that. So
I like how he clarified his point though. He said because the wife and the son were there, and he's right about that.
Which is hilarious though, because Ilia is the one who pushed him, and he's the one who created any chaos there. So like,
it was brilliant.
He was the least concerned about that whole thing. But I guess just to put a bow on this, what I would say, since I'll give my victory speech since you anointed me. Danny wins in the sense that if the UFC wants to make the fight that's going to make them the most money, it's Paddy Pimblett. Goes wins if they want the best, maybe the best highlight or the best win for Ilia right now, like catch Gaethje while he's still here in 5 years. That'll look the best on his resume at this point.
It was an exciting fight too.
Yeah, potentially, right? Unless Ilia just crushes them in seconds, which is entirely possible with Gaethje's style. And then I do think with Arman, that is the most competitive, intriguing fight overall, but probably the toughest one to sell. So I'd put myself at the bottom of the list in terms of like fan interest, but I think Danny gets the win in terms of the fight that's the biggest.
Danny's the money for sure.
My client just retired. Put that up.
Sorry, Justin. Thanks for the memories.
Goes is the most appealing in North America. Danny for sure worldwide with the money thing. But I think if we go off the proper, you know, the #1 guy or whatever, and if the point maybe want to play his hands smart, he might be catching this guy while this guy's just not 100. It's mental and physical out there. Chat room, tell us, who do you think presents the best case? Who would you like to see next for the champion, Ilia Topuria, at 155 pounds? He's now the undisputed champion. And lastly, guys, what's next for Charles Oliveira? Dan, you got any ideas for him, man? I don't even have to ask this. Title contention days are over, or
yeah, what is he, 35? And that was just a brutal KO. He's had his shots. I think this was it. And you see it there. He's getting very emotional. I think he kind of knew. I mean, I don't think he expected it. Well, actually, I don't know if that was from this fight.
I am not sure.
That B-roll?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I think he knew this was his last chance. And obviously, you know, he's a beloved figure. He's a guy that the fans respect. So you never know, with a good win or two, maybe there's some momentum again to put him back in there. But I don't think Ilia Topuria is going anywhere. And, you know, good luck trying to sell a rematch between those two. So, yeah, I think most likely we just saw the last championship fight for Charles Oliveira.
All right. And goes, what do you want to see with him? Do you want to see him against other legends, kind of like the card Poirier's been playing? Like, you want to see him all fight legends, or do you want to go back to Poirier? He gave BSD a chance, Benoit Saint-Denis, about a year and a half ago or something like that. Do you think Oliveira owes it to the sport to maybe pull a young guy up?
I mean, he's still a dangerous fighter. Like he lost to a guy that we're talking about could be potentially the pound for pound best right now, right? So I think it'd be dangerous to kind of put him up against some of those up and comers. I think it's going to be rematches against other legends. Will probably be where he ends up.
All right. What do you have for ideas, Mike? What do you think is good for Charles Oliveira, other than some time off? But in early 2026, what do you want to see him doing?
I mean, I think Grant Dawson really deserves a chance to fight a top guy. No, I'm kidding. I think the guys that he's probably going to be fighting is like, you know, Dan Hooker, maybe if Max Holloway win or lose in a few weeks here against Dustin Poirier, could be something that makes sense. It's a tricky spot right now, though, because you look at the top five, he has history with everyone, either has fought them or lost to them. So it gets a little bit complicated here. That's why I actually thought this was such an interesting fight against Ilia, because he had faced everyone else in the top five, right? So it would have been a rematch there. But yeah, it's probably going to be someone a little bit down there, like Fiziev, Hooker, maybe Holloway, win or lose. Like that would be what I would expect, unless he wants to, you know, do a U-turn and go to welterweight or something, which I've seen. I think Daniel Cormier or someone suggested, but there's nothing that makes me feel like he would be changing his trajectory for a title fight in that weight class. In fact, it might be more difficult for him at welterweight. So
all I can think of is that strategy Kamaru Usman used a few weeks ago. I don't want Charles Oliveira getting pummeled like that. There's some good grapplers at 170. All right, great stuff from the guys here. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on the chat. If there's some good comments, I'll circle back to them, because this is all about UFC 317, so we're not pivoting hard from one event or one promotion to the next, but we do got to cover some other greatness. Alexandre Pantoja, he defended the flyweight title. This is the silent assassin, guys, of the UFC. Not much noise from him. He just shows up, punches the clock, gets to work. A fierce competitor from the sound of the bell, punching, kicking, strangulations. 4 title defenses again for the Brazilian. So he's still 7 short of Demetrius Johnson, but yet somehow his name's being thrown around with Demetrius Johnson. And I don't think Demetrius Johnson is offended. It's just different times. I don't know if anyone will ever get to 11. Let's get a reaction. Mike Bond, we'll go back to you. Pantoja against Kai Kara-France.
Great performance. Pantoja is a force in there, man. I thought maybe this would be a bit of a longer fight. Maybe Kai would be able to get all 5 rounds, just because he was so locked in and seemed like he wanted this so bad. He might be able to tough it out, but his moments of success were almost non-existent here. And Pantoja was just all over him from beginning to end. He is a real force, set all sorts of records for this weight class now. He has the most wins, most finishes, most submissions. He was in ties with, like, you know, either Davidson Figueiredo or Demetrius Johnson or Joseph Benavidez for all those records. He's set himself apart. So no questioning now that he is clearly the second best flyweight ever, comfortably. And now it's all about chasing Demetrius Johnson. Can he do anything to get there? I would be inclined to say no, just because he is 36 years old and he's only at 4 title defenses. He would need another 8 to get the record. So that's, you know, another 4 years of doing this if you're fighting consistently twice a year with no injuries or anything like that. But this seemed like the point that set it up to a really interesting moment in the flyweight division. This was a great platform with Ilia Topuria's interest in the main event to get a win like this, to have the whole Joshua Van face off. I think this was a A+ night for the flyweight division from beginning to end.
Because it was like rinse and repeat, you know, with him on the ground and the body triangle. And we got caught slipping because it looked like Kai France was comfortable. He probably trained that position a lot. And even when Pantoja did slip the arm underneath, there was a couple times, at least 5 or 6 times, where he went 2 hands on one, which is the defense. But each time Pantoja, he's done these reps thousands, tens of thousands of times. He just kept pulling and pulling, getting his arm back over there, and Kai France ran out of wind.
Yeah, if you didn't know anything about mixed martial arts and you tuned in for the first time, you saw that fight, and I told you this guy's fighting for a title, you go, these guys don't even seem like they're in the same world. That's how good Pantoja is. I mean, he takes another step forward, and he did catch Kai slipping. It was just a moment that he wasn't paying attention, and he slipped in that choke. But he's another guy that when you look at him, where are the holes? Like what is it that we're looking at here? This guy has just been going through everyone like butter, man. You have to be perfect to beat him. And Kai France was not perfect that night. And I think we're just gonna keep seeing this over and over because this kid, I think, is not only getting better, but I think he's kind of gravitating a little bit more the same way Ilia Topuria took a step forward. Maybe not that big, but I think with the fans, I think he had a little bit more swag for this fight, and I was into that.
Danny, any thoughts on the South Floridian? Like I say, he looked great. What was your reaction?
This guy's so great, and he's very underrated. And I guess the only negative thing about Ilia Topuria on Saturday was that it did kind of overshadow this performance. And I think we'd be talking about it as a community a lot more if it wasn't for that crazy KO. But yeah, the guy's amazing. The guy has clearly improved. Like, go watch his early title fights, and he clearly looks like a different fighter. You see it there in the Brandon Moreno fight. He's kind of fighting sloppy. His chin is way past his hips, leaning forward. Some people even picked Kai France to knock him out because of that old footage, but you're basing a prediction on somebody that no longer exists. That is no longer Alexandre Pantoja. The essence of his style is still there in terms of like the goal. He's looking for the takedown. He's looking for the back tick. He's looking for the rear naked. But the way he's going about it is just a lot more smooth, defensively, a lot more sound. And he just, like, it's crazy. He's 34 and at flyweight, but he even looks better athletically now than he did years ago. Like, he's like a puma in there. Like, he is, his movement is explosive. It's quick. And there's almost nothing you could do about it. I'm sure Kai France trained his ass off, but he was just still, you know, a fish out of water. He couldn't do anything to Pantoja. So we'll see how long he can maintain this for. As I did mention, he is 34, but if he's able to maintain this form, I just don't see anybody in the division beating him.
And you know, Danny, we saw Brandon Moreno there in the B-roll. It couldn't have been a worse night for him. He owns 2 wins over Kai France, so it would have benefited him probably for Kai France to get the dub. And we asked him about that at the expo, and he didn't want to really play that card. I think he just felt like, well, however things play out, we'll deal with it, and that's probably the only thing you can do. But you had to think that that's the way he was leaning. And then opposite of that, Manel Kopp, Brandon Moreno, I mean, they got overshadowed by Joshua Van, who about a month ago was not in the position he is now, but he's won 2 times in June, looked great, and he gets pulled into the octagon.
Earlier this month, he was in the prelims, right? Or am I? It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, in terms of Brandon Moreno, like, it couldn't have gone worse for him, right? Like, he had that card of, hey, you know, the UFC is going to Guadalajara. You need a championship fight involving a Mexican. I'm in there. That didn't go down. Then you would think that, you know, Royval and Kopp, you would eliminate a contender there, but instead, one that's sort of fresh to the champion got injured, so he's still kind of relevant, even though he didn't fight. And then Van all of a sudden came out of nowhere and got himself a title shot. So yeah, it was a bad night for Brandon Moreno. And but all in all, I would say a good night for the flyweight division. I think things are very exciting right now. Like, it's very competitive. The level is up there, and there's interesting names. So we'll see how this all shakes out. But I think the UFC did the right choice there. Perfect execution in bringing Van and facing him off with Pantoja, while, you know, both fights are fresh off the press. And yeah, man, flyweight division is very exciting right now.
Early lean, Danny?
Oof. I think we're You got to go with Pantoja, right? But like Joshua Van is just surpassing so many expectations. I picked Brandon Royval to win, so yeah, you never know. And at 23, you're just evolving a ton. So I'm gonna go with Pantoja on this one, and I'm just excited for it. I'm just excited to see the action.
God, I hope we're not being rude here, discounting everyone else. But goes, if they do go forward with Van and Pantoja, what are your thoughts? Do you like that fight, and who would be your early lean?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the fight to make. It's kind of like rock and roll versus the symphony, right? And uh, I guess my early lean, it's got to be Pantoja. I mean, he just doesn't really do much to make you think that things can't go his way. But you know, one thing about Van is he takes fights very, very seriously, and he comes forward. And so you gotta think at some point he may have his moment. But if it doesn't go his way, it's going to be a really, really long night for him, I think.
Futura Sequence is saying Pantoja is going to wipe the floor with him. Joseph Boza says Josh Van is playing with house money. I kind of like him. Mike, do you like the matchup? Is it the proper matchup? And who's your early lean?
I love the matchup. I think, as I said before, this was executed A+ all around the way they set this up. Pantoja at the post-fight press conference, our most liked social media clip of the entire week was him giving that little speech saying, like, when I was 23 years old, I was working in a restaurant cleaning dishes. This guy's going to be fighting for a world title. And I think that kind of resonated with a lot of people. I think, like a great bit of promotion from Pantoja there. So like, this is a flyweight title fight that people are actually interested in. Is it going to be big enough where it can headline its own pay-per-view? Probably not. It'll still be the co-main on another card, but there's a storyline. There's some interest here. It was set up well. So like, great job by everyone here in making this happen. And as far as the fight itself, I mean, it's hard to pick against Pantoja right now. Joshua Van has never been in a 5-round fight, let alone with someone with the experience and know-how to control the clock and the pace of a fight like that as Pantoja does at this point in his reign. So if Joshua Van's takedown defense holds up, it's an extremely interesting fight, but I think Pantoja gets him to the ground, takes his back. It's probably a similar result to what we saw here. He's just so good at that back position, so good at on the ground, and I don't think Joshua Van has shown enough at this point to get me to think he'd be able to thwart that, but maybe he improves and he's just that guy. Maybe he's a prodigy.
Because we're celebrating the flyweights here, a resurgence. They got a lot of contenders. We're praising the champ, but I got to ask this one. You have any interest in Merab and Pantoja at all? Just because, Pantoja's now got 4, right? A lot of these guys want to be champs. He did seem to shut it down, but should we be, thinking about that? At the same time, Pantoja's laughed at a lot of guys too.
Yeah, I think money talks, and they have kind of shut it down, but they just seem like they're on that trajectory. I think they still have work to do, but we maybe a year from now might be calling for something like that because both guys, and honestly, I don't even know how that would go. That would be a tough one to call.
With Merab and Pantoja?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I think Van beats Pantoja, and I think Merab kills Pantoja. But it sucks to say that because I also think the world of Pantoja. Now, that said, Mike brought up something interesting. Van, inexperienced, young. It could be that Pantoja just drags him down. Although that dude's he's beefy, man. He's strong. He looks like he's got some heavy hips. Like, it ain't going to be that easy to take him down. But if he does, that's where Pantoja just slithers like a snake and like a boa constrictor, right? And ends you. But you have any interest in it, Danny?
I do actually. And I think Pantoja he showed more interest in defending the belt at 125, but he didn't completely shut down the idea of a Merab fight. I think talks are a little bit premature, but give each fighter a title defense or 2, and I think that fight will have a lot of traction. I think stylistically is an amazing fight because Pantoja threatens on the ground, and I think what we've seen with Merab, he's not going to win on the feet. He's going to win by taking you down, and if you take down Pantoja, I mean, you're right in his world. So I think if both guys continue to be dominant in their weight classes, yeah, I'm down for that fight at some point. Yep.
I need 2 defenses out of each guy. I think Sandhagen and Jan, and I'd like to see Van and Marino or one of those other guys come through, Cop perhaps.
Yoji Horiguchi, man. That's the fight.
And then I'll take a look. Mike, what do we do with Kai Kara-France? That's a tough pill to take, man. He looked like he was in great shape. And but he got owned on Saturday. However, I do feel like he's popular. We do have 2 champions from Oceania, so he can definitely rebuild.
Yeah, I suspect he'll pop back up on maybe that rumored Perth card later this year if that still happens, or if they go back to Australia like Q1 of next year. Of course, you'll lick your wounds. Tough loss for him. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I could see him fighting like a Tagir Ulanbekov or someone kind of on that bottom half of the top 15, whoever's kind of available and the timing lines up and he doesn't have history with. But yeah, not a performance that has me sitting here thinking at all about what Kai Kara France is doing next. It's probably the first time I've thought about it when you asked that question.
Have you been to Perth?
I have twice.
And Sydney?
Yeah. Perth is very far. It's the furthest place on earth I can travel from where I am right now in Toronto.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So that one beats you up a little on the jet lag side?
Yeah, not keen to do that ever again.
All right. Let's talk about the rest of this card here. I'm sorry. We left out one person, one name. Danny, give me a name for Brandon Royval. What do we do with this guy? He was in a nice spot. He was supposed to take on Manel Kopp. Joshua Van arrived to the scene because Kopp couldn't go. But Royval, like I said, was kind of in a prime position for us to be mentioning his name for a title shot, and now all that's gone.
Yeah. But by the way, we didn't mention it, but fight of the year. Van and Royval. I think that's the bar, and we'll see what the second half of 2025 has in store. But I think that's the fight of the year. I think that's a lock. I mean, that's
more so than Nazim Sadykhov and Nicholas Moda prior. So those seem to be the two that are.
I mean, that was a great fight, but this was like high level, right? This was number 1 versus a guy that's now going to fight for the belt. Where
Royval was a dog, fight with he wouldn't go away.
Good fight, but it was more. This was just at a more elite level. Sorry,
yeah,
George?
His most significant strikes landed ever in a 3-round UFC fight combined. So,
damn. No, I was just saying Royval was the dog because I think he felt the power, but he also was letting them know, you're not going to put me down and I'm still going to come back. And there was a point where I thought Van was starting to slow down, but he dug deep too.
Yeah, he got hit pretty hard by Royval, and it seemed like the momentum was shifting, and props to Van, because a 23-year-old without that much experience could maybe fade or really get psyched out of the moment, but he stayed composed, and he kept a nice pace to the fight and didn't let that get to him. But yeah, he took some damage as well. But for Brandon Royval, look, if he stays at 125, not a big deal at all. Like, there's so many exciting fights for him. I'd like to see him and Kai Kara France. I'd like to see him and Kopp. Hopefully a third booking there. I don't know if we're kind of tempting, and then the MMA gods, and we'll get a pandemic if they try to book that fight again or what. But I think there's some fun fights out there for 125. But I am interested in what he said pre-fight, which was that he was considering a move to 135 should he lose. He is very tall for the weight class, so he can add some muscle to that frame, and I think he can compete with those guys. I don't know if he can be champion, but at least a new amount of possibilities open up, new fights, new matchups. Maybe that could be exciting. So we'll see, but certainly an asset for the UFC. One of the most exciting fighters on the roster.
We're going to cover the rest of the card right now, but real quick, because I want to get this in before the show ends. Was this the card of the year, Danny, so far?
Yeah, this is the best card I've seen so far in 2025.
Goes?
I think top to bottom, yeah. Maybe not on paper, but it really performed.
It sure did. You agree, Mike?
Yeah, easily. This year has been dreadful. What are we talking about? This cleared it so bad. There's been so many bad events this year. This was so much needed. Like, thank God. I'm just sitting here thinking, like, this has been fantastic to watch.
It was historical. It was historical, and we had a lot of finishes.
It arguably had the knockout of the year, arguably the fight of the year. What more do you want? Probably not the submission of the year, but still, like,
new stars were created. Fun week here. Still 10 minutes to go, folks. We would definitely appreciate a like on the video if you don't mind, and also, why not just subscribe to the channel flat out? Hit that bell. You'll be notified when we're live, and it's constantly going on. Like, for example, when Goz and I finished the watch long the other day, right away as we went off, Kenny was in Vegas and he was going live with the post fight press conference. So it just kind of never ends here, and it's all free and it's great content. If you're an MMA fan, a junkie like us, then you will definitely like our channel. But the like button right now is definitely what we would appreciate. Let's continue here with the rest of the card. Peyton Talbot bounced back from defeat, Mike. Thoughts on his win over Felipe Lima, and what do we do next? Because he looked awful in his last fight, but he looked pretty damn good in this one. So are we kind of back to where he was?
Yeah, I think so. This got him, erase the memories of that a little bit. Maybe you give him a mulligan. We'll see against another guy who maybe has that level of ability to stifle him. I don't think Lima quite matches Barcelos in that category, but I would try. This answered a few of the questions. I would maybe try to go back to, you know, some more style-friendly fights. I like the Cody Garbrandt call out. I think that would be a good use of Cody at this point in his career. So sure, let's go with that. I'm not convinced Peyton Talbot is destined to be champion or anything like that, especially in a weight class as deep as this weight division, ran by a guy who is probably the best at doing what Barcelos did to him and Rob Dvalishvili. So there's work to do, but this was a good show of character to not let that last loss break him.
Shit, I think you handled that well. I don't even need to go to the other guys, but let's go to Gregory Rodriguez and Jack Hermanson. Beautiful KO. Fun fight. I was looking forward to this fight. This is the appetizer right before the pay-per-view. And then Rodriguez got the nice KO, but man, unfortunately, a couple shots there at the end. Now, by the letter of the law, he is innocent, right? We don't have to take it to case because you go until the referee lets you go. But it was clear he was out. One of the more clearer ones that there is. Not most, but some fighters would walk off. And a lot of fighters would just, like I say, not even entertain it. But he came in with two big ones. And Hermanson had to be looked at afterwards. Danny, your thoughts on the KO? We'll give Rodriguez his prop on the win. But then afterwards, what did you think, man? I think he could have avoided those two strikes.
That was scary. Yeah, and I don't want to shit too much on RoboCop for that those extra shots, because look, the adrenaline's high and you know he is in war mode at that moment. So that's more up to the referee to make sure to step in there early and not let the fighter that got knocked out to take some extra shots. But yeah, those were certainly unnecessary. Hermanson was done. He was out. And I'm glad he's okay, at least from what we've heard, or at least what the UFC broadcast updated us on Fight Night. He seemed to be okay and passed all the medical clearance. But yeah, man, RoboCop is a menace at 185 pounds. Give the guy some big names. This was one of them, but I want to see him in some big fights because he is a jiu-jitsu black belt, very good wrestling, huge for the division, and he's also got, you know, decent boxing and crazy knockout power. So I think this guy's prime for the top. But yeah, amazing knockout. One of the scariest knockouts we've seen in 2025.
Goes, your thoughts? You share Danny's sentiment? I thought it was kind of cold, man. I thought it was a little dirty.
It was. I mean, it was pretty bad, but I do understand that rush of being in that moment. And to me, he looked very clearly out. But for them, sometimes they can talk about how the fight slows down, but it also speeds up. So I kind of give him a pass, but that was pretty nasty, dude.
Yeah. All right, Mike, you want to chime in on it? Is it the letter of the law? He's good or what?
He's good, but yeah, come on, man. Like the guy was a corpse in front of you. Like you got a little more restraint. The guy's name is RoboCop, so maybe we shouldn't expect anything more than him to be on autopilot in there. But freaking hell, man. Like it was a Dominic Cruz who was saying at the desk when they threw it back up, being like, a guy like Jack Hermanson, you never know if he's going to get back up and get back in the fight. You got to make sure he's out. I'm like, okay, bro. Like he was pretty much dead in there. It was unnecessary, but is what it is.
The hands, yeah, like the hands weren't even coming up or anything like that. He was just as out as he gets. And look, if this was the opposite, we'd be saying the same thing. We're just picking on the fighter.
Sure, and that's what Gregory said post-fight. You know, he was like, if he did that to me, I would have had no problem with it. This is the game. So I do like the one comment there, though, from Fresh Melon Juice saying, let's talk about the old referees who are slow to stop the fight in this one and in the Ilia fight. Got a note there too. Herb Dean did have his hand on him when he threw that extra punch too. So that's even maybe a little more shade to throw at Gregory. But yeah, there was a few positioning issues with the referees on this night in terms of getting there for the knockouts.
Yeah, they need to start tackling people. Remember the old refs would tackle you and just bounce you out of the way.
Yeah, that's when Herb Dean drops the people's elbow on Dustin Poirier when he
Yeah.
goes.
Oh yeah,
In the BMF fight, exactly.
second knockout.
Tracy Cortez against Viviana Araujo. Any thoughts here? Goes. Did she turn a corner? Is she a future title contender? That's a packed flyweight division.
It is. I mean, I think it was a solid win. I think she got rid of some demons, but I don't know that you'd say it blew you away, right? When you're thinking of the top of the division, does she have something for them? I think she still has a little bit of work to do, but I do think it was a step in the right direction for her.
Danny, she was going for it at the end, so it's not like she cruised to the victory. And then she had a pretty passionate post-fight speech as well. I was wondering if that would catch traction, maybe, you know, with the weekend news or whatever, but still focusing back on her performance. Where do you see her in the flyweight division?
I do think she look, I'm not going to say here that Tracy Cortez is going to be a future UFC champion, but I do think a lot of people discard that idea because of her looks or whatever it may be. But this was, I think, her best performance ever. I thought she looked great. I thought her IQ in there was amazing. She took the right decisions at the right time. Strong wrestling, good jiu-jitsu, had a few attempts there, and Araujo is a high-level grappler. Her boxing looked great as well. She took some good shots as well. All in all, I thought Tracy had a great performance. And I do think that we saw an evolution in her game. I think she improved a lot from that loss to Rose Namajunas and learned a lot. And I'm just curious to see and excited to see what's next for her and how she can continue to build on this. I think there's some fun fights out there for her, and I do think she can maybe crack the top 5. We'll see.
Mike Anakinski in the chat saying Tracy versus Macy next. You like that, or are they crazy?
No, I think Macy deserves a little bit of a more higher ranked fight than that, despite all the issues that she had and, you know, the craziness with the walkout. She's on a 6-fight winning streak. Give her someone a little more up there.
Okay. We have let me see. I think it's going to be Valentina and Zhang Weili. We caught up with Zhang Weili at the expo, and she's kind of hinting towards that. And so I think Jasmine J, Natalia Silva, probably Manon Fiorot, Alexa Grau, all these gals are going to have to mix it up at some point and makes that division pretty exciting. But I thought it was a really, really good performance from Tracy Cortez. I think she has turned a corner to answer the original question. Give me another highlight, guys, from this fight card. Back to you, Danny. Who else did you like from this card that you want to give some love to?
Real quick, Joseph Bosa suggesting Tracy versus Alexa. I think that's a good fight. I think Tracy has been pretty open about wanting to fight Alexa in a respectful manner, in the sense that she admires her. And you throw that on Noche UFC co-main event, why not? I don't think that's a bad idea.
Is that asking too much out of Tracy Cortez, though, to fight in 3 months?
I mean, she went the distance with Rose.
Yeah, that's my
right. But yeah, in terms of like the activity, yeah, that's one thing about Tracy.
Joshua Van's calling that a layoff.
She doesn't fight often. Yeah, she fights like once a year. Would you say, Gigi?
Joshua Van's calling that a long layoff.
Yeah, yeah. For him, that's retirement. Yeah. So funny how they asked him, 3 weeks short notice, and he's like, no, it's not. Like, what?
I like that matchup. She's from the Southwest. She's from Arizona. This thing's happening in San Antonio, a city that's big on, you know, the Mexican heritage. We got someone born in Mexico versus a Mexican American. I like that matchmaking personally.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah.
What was your other highlight?
Out there by Joseph Bosa. In terms of the highlight, man, I'm gonna go with Dariush, because he hadn't picked up a win since 2022. This is a guy that I feel kind of got screwed back when he was in his prime and on that crazy 6-fight win streak. I think he probably should have gotten a title shot at some point, but due to politics and the fact that, you know, he's not very popular, he didn't get his due. So you see guys like that kind of get screwed by the politics of the sport and take a couple hard losses. You know, it's kind of nice to see them get a win. And I also felt bad for Moicano, who's a very likable guy, someone that I've interviewed for quite some time and has always treated me well. But yeah, it was nice to see Benny get a victory.
Benny just dug deeper in the 3rd round. That's why he won. Both guys were, the parity was there, but he dug deeper. He would switch from strikes to wrestling, and Moicano just, you could tell it was sinking him little by little. Goes another highlight from you.
Well, mine was going to be RoboCop, but, you know, the more that I think about it, I'm actually going to give my highlight was on the preview show. If you go back and watch with Farah Noon and Mike Bond actually drew up all of this chaos. He said he wanted finishes left and right, chaos, dynamite, and that shit happened, dude. Like after about three of them, I was like, what is Well, what are you drinking in the water over there? But dude, Mike, you pretty much called that, didn't you, in the preview show?
We did, yeah. It felt like this was leading to something and that this was going to be a special night. I mean, International Fight Week, sometimes they haven't delivered, but this one seemed like it had all the ingredients to be a nice one. And I'll just go right into my shout out, George, since I know we're short on time. I will give it to Terrence McKinney, since no one else seems to want to give him love. This man has 7 UFC wins, 7 seconds, 2 minutes, 11 seconds, 2 minutes and 17 seconds, 1 minute, 25 seconds, 20 seconds, 2 minutes and 1 second, and 55 seconds. And to speak for all that work, 0 bonuses. It is completely garbage. He got screwed again on Saturday. I don't know if he had something going on where something happened behind the scenes and he's in the doghouse or something, but this makes no sense to me. They had an $11 million gate. They could have given out an extra $50K to him if they wanted to. So I'm just bummed for the guy. I would love to see if there's another fighter with 7 first-round finishes to open their UFC career and 0 bonuses to speak for it. It's crazy.
That is embarrassing. Wow, when you put it like that, because this was the card where I think they had the budget to definitely do it. So hopefully he got one of those.
To do it on every card, but especially on this one. Come on.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to give a shout out in an International Fight Week. I spoke to Kyle Barallo, and he said something important. I saw Jean Silva work the fans really great at the expo, and he was saying that not only do we realize we got to fight and perform, but our other job is to connect with the fans and give some love to the fans. I know a lot of fighters will go in the media. The first thing you want to do is stick it to the fans because they said something in their previous fight or whatever. These guys are looking at it a different way, and that's why I think the Fighting Nerds are very, very successful as a team. They get prize fighting, but their connection was amazing. They took time to get to every autograph and things like that. So shout out to the Fighting Nerds. They are getting it. Guys, one more time, the URL call out, all right, for what you were seeing, that QR code that we showed earlier. If you want to get that Ilia Topuria commemorative MMA Junkie page print celebrating his 317 win over Charles Oliveira. If you want to go to usatodaystore.com/UFC 317, get it, and you might as well get it with the frame. It looks really, really cool. So I'm probably gonna check that out myself. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget, we do this every Monday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, with the whole team here. We rotate the panel, and it's a great time. And share that with your friends if you don't mind. Hit the like button on the way out. But for right now, we're out. Go out and be a champion. We'll talk to you in 7 days.